we pay homage today to the logo. When I think of Jerry West, he had a nickname, Mr. Clutch. He was the logo. The NBA logo is Jerry West. He passed away today. And a West Virginia great, a U.S. Olympic gold medalist, many time. I think it's 8 or 9 world championships, once as a player with the Lakers, and then, of course, as an executive winning world titles with the Lakers, and also with the Golden State Warriors. He was a part of that run, too, for a little bit. He is among the great names. West Virginia alum. Wanted to give him a little bit of that spotlight we can right now.
Yeah, Bill Walton a couple weeks ago and Jerry West yesterday. And, yeah, so that's very tragic. He was very, very influential. He's a 3-time Basketball Hall of Fame inductee as a player, as an executive, and as a contributor to the game, I believe. So the dude's in the Hall of Fame. He's so good at everything he did and so important to the game of basketball that they put him in the Hall of Fame 3 times. That is unbelievable. And look, I know this probably ends him ever being on our show, but like Michael Jordan, as important as he was to the NBA, not going to go in as an executive. You know, if that's how Jerry West, Magic Johnson, not going to go in as an executive. A lot of the guys who became executives not going into the Hall of Fame as an executive. That's how good Jerry West was at everything. The one thing he wasn't really that great at is he was not the best coach. I mean, he was good at it, but he lacked that like extra thing, but he had such a great basketball mind that nobody could identify talent like he did. And remember, he's also the one who called the Charlotte Hornets, was like, hey, we're going to trade up for Kobe Bryant. And they're like, what are you giving me? And they're like, Vlade Divac. And like, quit drilling, you hit oil.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the passing of the logo. It's a sad day, as he was an immense figure, as you mentioned, and multi-talented when it came to the NBA and the sport of basketball, touching it from every angle and having made an impression or helped the game evolve or brought it along and changed it for the better in a variety of different ways. So, shout out to the West Virginia folks since he was one of their own. But, sad day for the NBA, and that's been a couple, as you pointed out, with he and Bill Walton here in just the last couple of weeks. So, double duo of dynamic Hall of Fame legends that have, passed here recently, which is just unfortunate, but that's life, right? I mean, 86 years old. He lived a long, fulfilling life, to be sure. And had his hands all over the Lakers and so many other things in the sport. So definitely a legend. That goes without saying. But, I didn't get to experience his playing days or much of that, but knew him as an executive, obviously. Saw him involved in so many different things. And, it's a big loss for the game of basketball.
One of the great jersey, number 44, is one of the great names that's worn that jersey in sports. One of the note about him is that not only did he trade Vlade Divac to Charlotte to get Kobe Bryant, or the rights to Kobe Bryant, it was a week later he signed Shaq as a free agent. And, of course, those two became running buddies and had a great run when it came to the Lakers in the 1990s and early part of the 2000s. Now, a lot of things are going on in sports. The one part, and I don't quite understand this part, as student-athlete, a protection about employment, there was a bill that was put up. Pete Nakos with the story, he had it yesterday as well. I've tried to kind of back away from some of the legal issues and stuff, but the Power Four, the Autonomy Four conferences have signed off on this if, in fact, it ever gets past where it is right now.
It's called the Protecting Student Athletes Economic Freedom Act, and it prevents them from being named employees, which would seemingly to me be taking away a freedom. Like if you say you can't do something, I don't know if you're protecting a freedom because it's not like being an employee is a criminal act. So it's kind of a weird thing that they're doing. There's an amendment to this that would kind of allow for that was that was proposed by Paul McDonald. You see in the tweet here, that's the Coke Council in the Johnson case, the one that's in Colorado right now, that they approve of, and maybe it'll get in. I still don't think any of these things are going to pass, because to pass both houses of Congress, people have to agree on something.
Which they don't do very much of.
And it's not even like, you could ask them straight up and down, do you agree with this? And they'll say, yes. But what does he say? Oh, he also says yes. Well, then I say no. And then it's over, because it's just how things have gone. So I don't know if any of these things are really ever going to pass, but we're getting closer to those congressional guidelines, guardrails, whatever silly word you want to use. But again, I think this is like, the fact that everybody is so quick to the Power Four is like, yes, that's what we want, makes me think, well, that means you're probably going to get sued.
Yeah, and it does appear to be just another thing out there when it comes to this minutia, and yet some things more important than others. Craig, your thoughts about it? Nope.
I don't really have many thoughts on it. I mean, it's I think Paul kind of covered the bases there. I know that the schools are wanting to avoid the employee label as best they can, as long as they possibly can. It's one of their last fights. So if they can find a way to get around full employee status, then they're obviously going to try and do that any way that they possibly can. So we'll see if this is effective or not, but it's another one of those kind of governmental things thrown out there that, like, well, if this person does this and it gets pushed here and this happens, then this could be this way. And there's just a lot of this or that I guess needs to still take place to ensure that happens. So, I guess we'll see how this goes as it moves along here.
Well, one of the things, we have a guest today at 3:30. His name is Rob Escobar. Olin Buchanan, who we've had on the show many times talking about A&M's football, whatever, with Texags, wrote a story about Rob Escobar. We'll have him on today at 3:30, and it's about tradition, fan commitment, I don't know what else you would say, superstitions. He's going to join us today at 3:30. The College World Series, of course, about to start in Omaha, Nebraska, coming up this weekend. All right, one other note. I woke up to this tweet from, well, it was the College Football Kings about what ACC has done. And we know they've had a great run. I don't think anybody on this set, Paul's an FSU grad, I don't know if anybody on this set has said that the ACC wasn't successful. What this has come down to is, again, we've said wins and losses did not help keep the Pac-12 together last football season. They were done by then anyway. It's not, the success is not right now what wins and losses are about. Unfortunately, in college football and athletics, it's about TV sets, it's about revenue, it's about network commitment and all that. We woke up to this tweet, and then there was a tweet from, I think, Fletcher, questioning many of the writers around the country, included us, which, okay, thank you for that, that when are you going to show some journalistic whatever and tell the truth about the facts?
Well, we've never said the ACC is bad. As a matter of fact, the ACC is fantastic in everything. They're like, look, they've got good football teams. They just have football teams that haven't won a national title in the time that the TV contracts are up. They're half the College World Series. They were half of almost of the Elite Eight this year. They had a Final Four team. Their softball is good. Track is good. Everything is good. But none of that matters. None of it matters. And the football point.
Well, it does matter.
But I mean.
But when it comes to how people are perceiving them or who they are in their future.
But none of that matters to the TV networks. None of that. Like, I even saw a thing like, oh, well, volleyball and have bigger rights. They can get that anytime they want. Like, they don't. There's not going to be a negotiating thing. It's not going to be ABC and Fox fighting over, like, who's going to get the volleyball finals. They'll get what they want from that, and they'll get the deal that they want. Which is not an indictment of the sports. It's just how those business corporation entities view them. And he makes a point in there that, of course, I agree with. The 13-0 conference champion team was wrongfully snubbed. But why was it wrongfully snubbed? They gave an excuse, but why? Because the SEC was going to be the victim. And they're not going to let the SEC be the victim in anything. So the ACC's why do you think FSU and Clemson are trying to get out? It's not because all the other sports are great. If you asked FSU and Clemson, what do you think of all the other sports? They're like, hell, we're having a blast. Everything's going well. And they're like, well, what about football? Well, we thought that was fine, but guess what? It's not. This is about football. It's not an indictment on the ACC as a league. It wasn't an indictment on the Pac-12 as a league. It never should have been an indictment on the Big 12 as a league. For all these shakeups, it's about TV and ratings and revenue. That's what it's about, and what you can either make the powers that be believe or prove with numbers. And unfortunately for the ACC, they're on the short end of that stick right now, and it has nothing to do with everything that they did in the other sports.
Yeah, I've got a couple thoughts on this. For one, I think people get immediately defensive over this, and really all he's saying is, are they a second tier in sports? Clearly not.
No.
They're not. They're not holding second fiddle to anybody as far as athletic accomplishments go. So I don't think you look at this and necessarily say, like, you don't get it, you moron. It's like, I think it's taken ways now because of what we talk about constantly. It's like, we immediately go to thinking about money, which I think kind of sucks. That's everything now revolves around, you don't make enough, you don't matter as much. And that's what we've just relegated everything to at this point. So, yeah, the ACC's having a hell of a run in athletics. And as far as being a second-tier conference, no, they are not a second-tier conference to anybody. If that's the conversation that you're trying to have, then, yeah, they're definitely in the upper tier as far as actual accomplishments go, or actual on-field, on-court momentum, the things that at least I watch for, actually. But the off-the-field stuff is a different conversation. And, yes, you are in a second tier as far as that goes because you don't make as much TV money or have as many primetime spots or what have you. So which conversation do you want to have? Because I don't know exactly what their original point was. I tend to think that it was about the athletic accomplishments, but I know that it also plays into the other conversation about not feeling as worthy or not getting the same amount of money and all those types of things. So, yeah, on field, that's great. But it also reminds me of, like, the Oregon State fan I see constantly who's like, we're great in women's polo this year. How are we not getting into the Big Ten? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, because that's not what moved teams to the Big Ten, was that they were just strictly on the field good. So, yeah, it's about more than just winning. Winning's great. The ACC is doing a lot of winning. That can't be argued, and they are no second-class citizens when it comes to actually winning. But the conversation about realignment and all of those things has nothing to do with winning at the biggest level of the conversation. It does on the lower levels, because that's what can propel you to get that call in realignment. That's what can boost your profile to TV networks and can create some of that money that closes a gap. So winning does matter, but it's just two different conversations. Yeah. It's an off-the-field conversation and an on-the-field conversation. And unfortunately for the ACC, as good as the on-the-field is, that doesn't change the fact that Florida State still doesn't like it there. Miami probably doesn't want to be there. We know North Carolina looking to leave. So
Clemson.
They're all winning, but do the teams that are a part of that care enough to go yeah, go ACC? No, they're like, how do we get out of this? So that's all the winning's great, but when the teams that are doing a lot of that winning are also trying to sneak out the back, or not even sneak out, they're trying to walk out the front door to your face, then all that winning kind of falls flat, quite frankly.
Yeah, the North Carolina, Clemson, Miami, and Florida State. This is not Texas, Oklahoma trying to walk out in the middle of the night.
No, they're doing it.
They're very obvious what they want.
Yeah, they're doing it. They're doing it right. And this is a new phase of this, because all the other ones, like Texas and OU, said, "Oh, there's a couple years left on that TV deal. That's not too long. We can figure that out." The Pac-12 was expiring, so other than what the money that they lost that goes to Oregon State and Washington State, that's essentially their exit fee, right? Everybody's going to have to pay one. Florida State and Clemson are suing right now because they are trying to, force a negotiation on what the price is. No one in Tallahassee or in Clemson, South Carolina, think that they're walking out the door for free. I mean, they'll try to find those little loopholes that could, breaches of contract and whatnot, but this is all about that. And if this tweet is right, the college football, that one tweet, but the one that was sent to us where we were tagged in it was, when are we going to tell the truth? Well, it's not like we've been lying about them. I mean, we're just saying, like, look, like Craig said, if it was all that great for the teams that were in it, then why are they trying to leave?
Yeah, it's two conversations. Craig is right. There's the facts of winning. It's there. They've had a great year as a conference. But then, on top of that, there's the secondary conversation, which has dominated sports really for the last 2 or 3 years. Not that you don't celebrate championships. Michigan sure did. Georgia year before, whatever. It's a different story. And it doesn't mean because they've had success that it's still not looked at as a tier or second tier when it comes to revenue in college athletics and the power among what's going on with TV networks and how the future of college football has been shaped. There we are with that. All right, Luke Fletcher, by the way, is the one that responded to that by then asking us to show some journalistic skills and values by telling the truth. Well, there's the truth. Wins and losses, there it is. As far as the pecking order in college athletics, that's an argument that I think will be going on for quite some time until either they survive and move on or they're broken up, and I hope that they're not broken up. All right? Now, the University of Miami, speaking of which, their president is leaving to be the president or chancellor at UCLA.
His lifestyle is really not going to change all that much. Just, it's a dry heat compared to humidity. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the only thing in his life that I think is going to change. LA and Miami if they wanted to say they were sister cities, they could totally pull it off.
Yeah, no,
they're very similar. As a matter of fact, most of the good plastic surgeons live in those two places. So if you were going to get like a facelift and you'd be like, you can go see Dr. Rosenstein in Miami or Dr. Rodriguez in LA, they'd be like, Rodriguez has an opening. I'm going to fly out there and get my facelift.
Yeah, they are very similar in many, many ways. So he takes over the job or will be taking over the job on January of the start of 2025. Board of Trustees have now, Joe Echeverria will be the acting president at the University.
By the way, this was brought up just now by Conundrum in the chat room. The Miami Prez is leaving the ACC for the what now?
The Big Ten.
Okay. I mean,
great. Way to go, Conundrum. Conundrum, thank you very much. Yep. Very, very well said.
Yeah, I mean, you can draw those lines for sure. May mean something, may mean nothing. Time will tell on that, but it is something that you raise your eyebrows at a little bit because it's just yet another move being made from the ACC to the Big Ten, and there's others that could perhaps occur as well. So if you are super into realignment and trying to connect dots, then yeah, that's one that you can kind of raise your eyebrow a little bit at. There's also the possibility that I just prefer to live in LA than Miami. There's that too, but I know that that's not what is it was going to make for a more fun conversation. So yeah, if you want to try to look into this, there is reason to, or there's a basis to look into that and wonder, could that be another sign of just kind of the way things are shifting right now?
At North Texas, Stone Earl has left the football program. This is from the North Texas Eagle. I looked at his stats last year. He threw 40 passes. He has not played a lot in 21, threw 155 passes, 13 touchdowns, but he is no longer a part, at least as of now, of the North Texas football program. We got to remember, even though we have not really seen a lot of movement, that there are still players as we hit the summer who have some decisions to make on where they end up.
Yeah, Chandler Morris is the starter there at North Texas this year. And so, Steve Earle leaving. I think he's Stone Earle. Steve Earle sings. Stone Earle is leaving and, hopefully finds a spot to play. And, he didn't play much at North Texas. And then when Chandler Morris comes in, and he's played at Oklahoma and TCU before then. So kind of the writing's on the wall there.
Yeah, I mean, a guy who's just not going to have a starting job who probably wants to play, and he'll have to find some playing time elsewhere. I don't think this is any type of a seismic move that really alters much of anything, but I remember him a bit during his recruitment. Good luck to him. Have no idea what the Chandler Morris experience will be like for Eric Morris in the Mean Green. But I know that they lost a lot thanks to the transfer portal. They had some pretty good players that got poked away, and they're in a little bit of a transitional period. So yeah, a lot of changes going on, and now Chandler Morris hoping to get back to, his better form and not so much what we kind of saw the last few times we saw him at TCU that eventually led to his departure. But, yeah, good luck to Stone Earl wherever he lands.
And then Paul's got the College World Series odds. Garrett, if you wouldn't mind putting those up. Of course, there are 8 teams. Those are the odds. This is a good group of baseball teams. And there's no fluke here. These are all they have been good pretty much all year long. Handful of them, I think, have been ranked number 1. 2 or 3 or 4 of those programs have been ranked number 1 at one point or another this year. And there you see the college baseball odds. Anything that pops up there that's surprising to you?
Well, clearly A&M and Tennessee are your presumptive favorites, given the weird numbers. Like, that's how the betting is going on them, that you're not getting like a 9-2 or a something that's 53-20 or odds like that. So that's how those betting lines are going. I think it's wild that Florida is 14-1, given that this is their 8th or 9th consecutive College World Series. Now, they did not play well the majority of the year and got in kind of on history only and being barely above the water line, but they have good players and they got good in the postseason. So yeah, this is going to be a whale of a College World Series.
Beat Clemson to get to where they are now in Omaha.
Yeah, absolutely. And Clemson was 5th in the country most of the year.
Yeah, that Florida-Clemson game was something else. It really was. That was a fantastic baseball game if you missed out on that. I have a question for Paul. If Florida State and A&M play in the national championship, who are you rooting for?
Oh, I'm rooting for Florida State. I don't care.
Okay.
I mean,
I think you do care a little bit.
It's, it won't hurt as much as it, if Florida State loses to anybody, it's going to hurt. The one it would hurt the least to, I guess, is A&M, because I'd be happy for that part of my family, I think. I don't know. I've never had to make this kind of choice before, but I'll tell you, Florida State all day over everything.
Yeah, well, I think that would just be interesting to see, because it's a win-win really for you. But I know that Florida State's been starved for a title in baseball for a very long time. That's been something they just haven't been able to grab onto. So that would be a huge deal for them. I mean, a huge deal for any of these 8 programs. But I really do think with Texas A&M to win I know it's not considered like the major sport, like it's football, it's men's basketball, and then we can have a conversation after that. But it's like top 5 for sure, maybe 3, 4, depending on who you ask. I think A&M winning a baseball title would be a massive deal for that school, like a massive freaking deal for that school. At a time where they're getting poked at a lot, and football's been kind of a running joke and things like that. To go and that was an awesome hire of Schlossnagel, getting him from TCU a couple years back. He's been worth the money. They're really good, and yeah, I keep thinking about what a celebration that would be, because I've seen them win a women's basketball title, and that's about the extent of it. So I know that would be a big deal for them. But yeah, it's a great field. It's obviously very southeast heavy, excuse me. And ACC, SEC dominated. So, a lot of bragging rights at stake, and I'd imagine a lot of familiarity just because you got a lot of schools from, the same lower right square of the country.
Well, speaking of A&M, we